So at the beginning of February, I made a 2024 predictions video regarding Monolith Soft, Xenoblade, and Nintendo as a whole. And just my luck, a week after that, there were some large rumors, massive rumors going around about the Nintendo Switch 2 being delayed till next year. That means that at least half of my predictions have terribly aged, assuming those rumors have some merit to it, of course, but it was just a funny coincidence that a week after, it was like, hey Nara, remember that time you said, well, you're wrong. There is one game that I neglected to mention in that video. One game that, for a lot of you, was an elephant in the room. How could you forget this, Nara? Are you a fake Xenoblade fan? Because the last few months especially, this game, this idea, has been becoming more and more of a hotter topic. And that is the prospect of Xenoblade Warriors. Xenoblade Warriors, or Xenoblade Musou, has been an idea that's been floating around Nintendo fans for a while. And I assume that now that it's been about almost a year since Future Redeemed, and a few years since the last Nintendo Musou game, it seems like now fans are just over the roof. They want it. Xenoblade fans, at least, they are very enthusiastic about this idea. So I thought, why not throw my hat into the conversation? Not only have I been a Xenoblade fan since the very beginning, but I have also, regrettably, been a Musou fan since the very beginning. And that says a lot. I'm talking about since the very beginning. Okay? I have played more Musou games than most of you asking for Xenoblade Warriors. So I think I'm qualified for this conversation. Now, that's not a flex, okay? Because Musou games are basically the equivalent of video game junk food, so it's nothing to be proud of here. It seems like I'm in a unique, awkward position here. How do I say this? There's a reason why I conveniently forgot to mention it before. As a Xenoblade and Musou fan, I don't know if I'd be excited. But before we get into that, let's talk about why Xenoblade Warriors has been such a common talking point. As Nintendo fans, we see this long-running relationship between Nintendo and Koei Tecmo. We see Hyrule Warriors, we see Fire Emblem Warriors. What's the next step? Well, Xenoblade has swords. That's it. That's literally... I want to remind everyone, Xenoblade Warriors would be one of the most niche Musou games that ever existed. That's a high bar to clear, by the way. And it's not like Musou games have been doing all that well lately. So, is picking Xenoblade that much of a logical decision? I'm not saying it's impossible, but I wouldn't call it a safe bet. Whether or not it's likely to happen, there's nothing wrong with fantasizing, right? For the Xenoblade community, this would be the ultimate excuse to finally see all these characters and worlds we all know and love to come together. I mean, that's what Musou games typically are. They are over-the-top, unapologetic fan service. And a lot of fans want that after assuming we'd get that with Xenoblade 3. It would even be exciting from a gameplay perspective. Think about all those classes, all those unique mechanics. Think about breaking, toppling, launching, and smashing hundreds of foes at once. Just imagining Xenoblade in a more action-heavy environment is just inherently exciting. It's almost as if I already suggested that in a previous video, but hopefully this time you're not as upset. Most of all though, if Xenoblade Warriors did happen, there is a good chance that Monolith Soft would contribute to the writing, just like the writers of Three Houses worked on Three Hopes. This would be the biggest appeal to me. Musou gameplay is innately tedious, so it would be nice to have some compelling story to weave that all together. However, the story is a perfect segue as to why I'm skeptical of Xenoblade Warriors. Now, first and foremost, this is not a persuasive video. This is not a case of I'm right and you're all wrong. I'm not trying to convince you that I'm right. In fact, I'm probably flat out wrong. I'm just trying to give you a different perspective. And hey, if Xenoblade Warriors does get revealed someday, then we can revisit this video and see if anything's changed. The prospect of a Xenoblade Warriors does not excite me for several reasons. The most straightforward being, ironically, I don't care that much for fan service crossovers. I could enjoy them, but I'm not begging for them. I was not one of those Xenoblade fans who was upset or disappointed about how they handled Xenoblade 3, even before Future Redeemed. That was not me. I did not need Shulk and Rex to validate that being a sequel. Secondly, as a Musou fan, I can testify. I can give you the real shit. 100% no BS here, okay? Musou games are never as cool as they are in your mind or in the reveal trailer. They're never as cool as they seem. For example, if you're a huge Zelda fan and you ask me, hey Nara, should I play Hyrule Warriors and or Age of Calamity? My genuine response to you would be, do you have better things to do with your time? Yes, the fan service is fun. Do not get me wrong, it is fun. But it is also a novelty. It's never, oh, you have to play this if you're a fan of this, or you at least have to watch it. No. It's like, okay, if you have the money and you're in the mood, you can go for it, but otherwise you can move on with your life, and it'll be like it never existed. The one exception is Fire Emblem Three Hopes. I will say that if you do love Three Houses, and you haven't seen the slightest glimpse of Three Hopes, then you are missing out a little bit. Three Hopes expands on a lot of good characterization, my favorite being between Dimitri and Felix. But you see the problem there? You're only missing out a little bit. It's never as cool as it appears to be on the surface. The last thing I want to happen is to be excited over Dunban and Morag finally coming together, two badasses sharing a badass moment. We're all gonna be so hyped. And then they start talking. And instead of some cool lore or progression with their characters, we're just gonna get, I have a little sister. I have a little brother. Oh, we can relate to each other. Let's do our best to protect them. That is how low the bar is in terms of what you should expect from Musou game interactions. And that's the thing. I'm not opposed to seeing these beloved characters reuniting or meeting for the first time, especially if it was written by Monolith Soft. But at that point, I'd rather just have a Xenoblade game. Or hell, maybe something like a 2D fighting game could happen. I'd take that too. To me, it would be a bummer to see an all-new story written by Monolith Soft for a Musou game. One of the best writing teams in the gaming industry for junk food instead of a 5-course meal. I just think the standards are too low. You may as well do a gacha game on mobile. Be honest with me. I'd really like to know. Do you want Xenoblade Warriors because you want a Musou game? Or because you assume that that is the only way that this crossover could ever exist? Because judging by the conversations I've seen, most people veer towards the latter. And that's important to note, because there's a huge difference here. And that brings me to my biggest sticking point. This is where I'm going to lose some of you, if I haven't already. Again, this is not me trying to convince you, okay? This is just me being true to myself. Even though the Xenoblade trilogy has concluded, that does not mean that that was the last time we will see those characters and those worlds. We know Xenoblade will continue, and we can speculate all we want, but none of us actually know what's gonna happen. A new beginning does not mean the past is gone forever. And whatever does happen, I don't want it to be watered down by a Musou game. Now, what do I mean by that? What do you mean watered down? It's a spin-off, especially if it's not canon. What harm is that? Let me give you an example with Three Hopes yet again. Going into it, there were many Three Houses fans who were thinking to themselves, oh, this might finally be our chance to get that golden route we've always wanted, aka a route where everybody can be happy. Well, sorry to spoil it for you, but that did not happen. And I respect Three Hopes all the more for it. What made Three Houses so compelling in the first place, the reason why you're so attached to all of those characters, is because of the tragedy. It's because of the stakes. I don't care if it's not canon. Either way, the least you should do is respect the original story and why it was so impactful in the first place. So having a golden route in Three Hopes would have watered down Three Houses, because it's like, aw, are you sad? Can you not handle the consequences of the story? Well, how about you pay $60 to remove the reason why you cared about that story in the first place? No. Go back to AO3. Fanfiction is free. Thankfully, that did not happen with Three Hopes. But it kinda did with Age of Calamity. And a lot of fans were upset. Actually, hold on. Three Hopes is not all that innocent. Because I almost forgot, it is largely forgettable, Koei Tecmo loves, they are obsessed with inserting their own OCs. You want to talk about fanfiction? They insert their own OCs into their Musou games. And I'm not talking about just creating this big bad villain for all the heroes to come together. No. I'm talking about they're among the protagonists. They're important parts of the story. With Three Hopes, you had Shez, which, to be fair, that is a rare example of a great Koei Tecmo OC. I loved Shez, especially female Shez, but there's still a problem. There was still something that rubbed me the wrong way. Because in that story, minor spoilers, Byleth is the antagonist to Shez. And so eventually, you get to the point where Shez is powerful enough to defeat Byleth, the original protagonist. An OC defeating the OG canon protagonist. That's the type of stuff that you might want to be a little bit afraid of in Xenoblade Warriors. I mean, some of you guys were already upset with a similar incident in Future Redeems. So imagine that, except now it's with OCs in a video game that is meaningless. So whether it is canon or not, I just can't help but have this fear that Xenoblade Warriors, if it does exist, it's gonna do something stupid. It's gonna do something that is gonna water down the existing Xenoblade stories or even a future title. For all we know, some of these character tidbits and lore and interactions that we're all wanting, they can still happen. Like I said, we don't know. We can't assume that this is the only opportunity. I'd personally rather just wait and find out. I'd rather wait and see than to see it repurposed in this all-filler, no-killer Musou game where the fantasy in our heads, the fanfiction on AO3, is way more exciting than in what we actually end up getting. I don't want to risk that huge disappointments just in the hopes that at best we'll get some forgettable fun. Admittedly, I don't think I'm articulating myself as well as I could be, so if you're still not getting what I mean, if you're still not understanding why I think it'd be a big deal, then I don't blame you. But if it helps, let me offer a hypothetical timeline. Think about how you felt when Future Redeems was first revealed. Remember how wild that made the entire Xenoblade community. For us, those few seconds was a moment in history. It made us lose our minds. It was surreal. Now imagine if somehow, in some other hypothetical timeline, we got Xenoblade Warriors before Future Redeemed. Because this has been an idea that has been going on even before then. If we did get Xenoblade Warriors before Future Redeemed, do you really think, do you honestly believe it would have had the same impact? That's my fear for Xenoblade Warriors. Because as cool as it probably looks like in your head, there could be, equally, if not more likely, something far greater just around the corner. And I respect this series so much that no matter what direction it takes, I'd rather it just speak for itself. Let Monolith Soft cook instead of serving fast food.